Hello, everybody, and welcome to the episode of Business Spotlight with me, Matt Bull, MD of Action Coach in Loughborough. Delighted to be joined today by Ian McKellar from Overdue Invoices. How are you today, Ian?
Fantastic, thanks, Matt. And you?
Excellent, really good, thank you, really good. Yeah. Right, so let's get cracking. Why don't you tell us what you do and how long you've done it for?
Okay, so I'm the Managing Director of Overdue Invoices. We basically help organisations to improve their cash flow by getting paid quicker, which is probably been never more important than it is currently at the moment with the economic climate the way that it is. And the way we do that is twofold. One, we use the power of technology to help people with their accounts receivable. And then on the other side, if people are really struggling to get paid, then we can step in and we do actually commercial business-to-business debt recovery.
Excellent, very cool. So big demand at the moment, as you say, lots
Yep.
of people after your services.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. No complaints.
Good. So one question I always like to ask people at the start is, when you think about business success or being successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
I guess the cliche one is probably Richard Branson, but I think I like people like Peter Jones from the Dragon's Den. I think, tells it as it is, very straight, very honest, and clearly has been very successful.
Is that something you kind of admire then, that sort of straight talking?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it seems to be very honest. Obviously, it's only a superficial view that you have of these people, but yeah, certainly that's my perception of him. Yeah.
And what about Mr. Branson? Because he's one that comes up a lot in these. So what is it about him that you...
He is. I guess he's a serial entrepreneur. But having read, his biography, I think he's always had good people around him. I think that's been the key to his success. Because I think, he openly admits he's got a very short attention span. So he tends to sort of get a project off the ground and then have a team run it for him. And then he goes off and, tries to look for a new opportunity.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, I say with Branson comes up a lot. So it's good to hear his name again. So over the last few years, obviously, we've experienced a lot with lockdown and COVID and everything like that. Are there any opportunities or any changes that you kind of had in your mind about your business that COVID kind of enforced you to take action upon?
Well, it's interesting because, Overdue Invoice was actually born during COVID. It was kind of almost out of necessity. So I had another business called Kudos Technology that I set up when I left the corporate world, which was an HP dealership. It got quite badly damaged during the COVID period because we were struggling to get hold of equipment because there was a global demand for products for people working from home, and then that created a big demand on microchips. So all of a sudden we couldn't get product. So Overdue Invoices was born.
Amazing, amazing. Everyone had a choice, didn't they, during that? Were there times when you kind of you really were feeling stuck, or had Overdue Invoices kind of been there for a while?
Well, no. If I wind it back, when I first sort of left school, I was actually training to be an accountant. And so I actually worked in a small company in the construction industry, and doing their sort of management accounts and doing their credit control, credit management. But I decided after a while that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go off to the IT world. So I actually changed careers at that point. But just after the first lockdown, I met with a local business company and a friend of mine, and asked him how he's getting on. And he said that it'd be great if he could get paid. And I said to him, well, you may not know this, but 30 years ago, I actually used to do this. And the most powerful thing you can do is give it to a third party, take all the emotion out of it, let them sort of do the chasing for you. And he said to me, as I was so quiet, he said, well, you've got the gig. So he had two large clients, both owed him quite a bit of money. They were both big clients of his and long-standing relationships, but not paying him, not even taking his calls. Wow. We got one paid within a week, the other paid within 3 weeks, and he just said, you've got a ready-made business here. And that's where Overdue Invoices was born.
Amazing. What a pivot. And it's one of the number one things that I see with business owners is, if they can be worrying about cash flow, we'll say, well, how much are you owed? And they often even don't know the number. And if they do know the number, we'll say how often and how effectively do you chase it? And they don't know, do they?
No, absolutely. Yeah. You'd be amazed how many people just send an invoice out and just wait to be paid, and they'll wait for however long. And quite often the debtor's just waiting for them to pick the phone up or to contact them and say, well, when are you going to pay me? And then at that point they will pay. So it's some of it's quite basic.
Yeah. And interesting, a lot of them are really good at paying people. They'll always pay on time.
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. So you've obviously been a business owner for a while now. What's What's your biggest learning, do you think, as you know, since you've been a business owner? What's the biggest learning you can take from your experience so far?
Well, I think you've got to be pretty resilient. You know, there are lots of peaks and troughs. I mean, people think that it's quite easy, you know, running a business, and they see, you know, people that are successful run a nice house and a nice car and all that, but that takes a lot of graft and some sleepless nights when things aren't going the way they are. You know, and it's at that point that you need to be able to sort of be resilient and strong to, you know, sort of charter those tough waters, I think.
And what is it that kind of pulls you through in those you know, that resilience is, you know, it's one thing, a word we hear a lot with business owners. What is it that pulls you through when you?
Well, I think it's knowing that, you know, that there is the rough with the smooth, and you have to accept that, you know, you'll probably have a lot more better days than you have bad days, but you have to accept that those bad days are part, you know, consequence of running a business, you know. And there are many times when most of us, I think, if we're honest, say, you know, do I really need this? You know, should I just go and get a job? You know, but the reality is that, you know, you just stick with it, and you'll come good in the end.
Yeah, it's one of the number one things I hear from sort of, I wouldn't say successes, but guys who are making it or ladies who've made it, is they say it was the ability to just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So what are your plans for the business or the businesses for the next 5 years, do you reckon?
Well, I think the original business that I had, you know, Kudos Technology, will probably be sold, because the new business has actually now surpassed that in terms of turnover and profitability. And I anticipate that to grow even stronger. You know, the current climate at the moment means that our requirements, our needs, you know, or our services are really, you know, really important to people, I think. They always will be. I mean, cash flow is always an issue, but it just becomes even more so, I think, at times like this.
Yeah, amazing. So over the course of, you know, the last few years, one thing that I consistently hear around the marketplace from business owners is the lack of ability or the lack of quality staff around, and the ability to recruit and build a team and everything like that. What's your experience or viewpoint on that?
So I'm very lucky that my wife kind of works for me part-time at the moment, and we are looking to recruit and add to the team, and we may keep that in the family as well. My daughter's interested in joining the business, so. But you're right. I mean, it's not easy. I think that we would probably look to sort of recruit people and train them, rather than take people on that have got experience in the industry. I think that might be the way forward. A lot of us, we use the power of automation as well, which really leverages that to sort of free us up. So we're probably not as dependent on people maybe as some other businesses.
Yeah. And is it something that you're aware of out there, that, you know, people are struggling to recruit and
oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone I speak to says that it's a challenge at the moment. Yeah,
it's great. So cast your mind back to 18-year-old Ian.
Well, that's a long way back, Matt.
What would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself? What advice would you give 18-year-old Ian about the journey ahead of him?
I would probably say to myself to be a little bit, take a few more risks, calculated risks, not gambles, but just be a little bit braver and have the courage of my convictions. I think it's only with the benefit of, you know, age and experience that I've probably become more what should I say, more adventurous than I probably was when I was younger. I was much more cautious, so I'd encourage myself to be a little bit braver, I think.
I think we can all take something from that.
Yeah.
So finally, obviously part of the business spotlight, we're looking to give you as much exposure as we can. Is there any offer or any advice that you'd offer our viewers associated with your business today?
Well, I think people are pleasantly surprised around our software. So the software that does an awful lot of the heavy lifting in an accounts department, and so it goes back to your point earlier around not being able to sort of recruit the right staff. So if someone's looking to recruit into an accounts department, the software can actually do a lot of the heavy lifting in there. So it may be that you don't need a full-time person, that you could get someone that's part-time or even, you know, working minimal hours just to sort of fill in the gaps. And the prices on that software start from as little as £45 per month, believe it or not. It's almost a no-brainer for what it does for an organization. So I think I'd encourage people to look at that, to look at automation, to see how that can improve their productivity. And I think it will actually reduce costs and also bring in greater benefits on the cash flow side as well.
Well, it's an investment, isn't it? It's a generation.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Excellent. Okay, Ian, thanks a lot for your time today. Absolute pleasure. and I look forward to catching everybody on the next episode of Business Spotlight. Thank you again, Ian.
No problem. Thanks, Matt. Cheers.